What's going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. No, I do not have my camera zoomed all the way out. This is a little bitty knife, especially for this channel. You don't usually see little tiny knives like this. We're going to be talking about this little guy here on the channel. This is the Isham Bladeworks Blackstar Slipjoint. Now, before you start yelling in the comments saying, hey, that is not a true slip joint, it doesn't have a back spring, it uses a double detent, I'm going to say in response, that's what it's listed as in the description. It's listed as a slip joint. It may not actually be a true slip joint, but I think that terminology makes sense for most people out there so that they know what they're getting with this knife. It does kind of have a cool, unique system in it with the double detent, and we'll dive into that here in a minute. This is designed by Elijah Isham. Rest in peace. I never got a chance to meet him before he left this earth, but from what I understand, his personality was as out there as his designs were. I did follow him on Instagram for many, many years. In fact, I followed him on Instagram before he ever made his first knife, back when he would just upload hand drawings of his designs. And I remember thinking, these things are wild. There's no way anybody could actually build these into a functional knife. Flash forward a number of years, here we are. He's had a lot of knives made, and some really crazy ones that you wouldn't think would be possible. So if you're not familiar with Elijah's work, go check him out. He's done a lot of stuff for OEM manufacturers. He's also collaboratively worked on designs for other manufacturers and makers and retailers. This one here is actually under his own moniker, Isham Bladeworks. That's what the Blackstar is listed as, but really cool stuff. So let's get into it. Let's do some specs. Man, can I even measure something this small? Insert jokes here. Let's see, we're looking at 2 1/8 inch blade. Overall length is 5 3/4. I think this might be the smallest knife that I have ever featured on this channel. I'm trying to think. I may have done one on a little keychain Spyderco knife years and years ago. So barring that one, I don't even know if I did a video on that one, but barring that one, I think this is the smallest knife I have ever featured on this channel. 1.8 ounces, next to nothing. So this is for sure a fifth pocket style knife. However, it does have a nice pocket clip here. Let's go through materials and design and things like that. You got a beautiful clip point blade here with this nice nail nick that is functional, even though you don't really need to nick it because the detent's not that hard because it doesn't have an actual back spring. You can really just pinch open this thing all day. But if you want to use the nail nick, you certainly can. Nice clip point. It's got a black coating on the blade. Got a little bit of finger cheese in there. A little bit of black coating on the blade there. Actually, a lot of black coating on the blade. Not sure if it's PVD or DLC. It's got a little bit of a matte finish to it, which I actually like. It's not very glossy like you see on a lot of overseas made knives. So, which, by the way, this is an overseas made knife produced in China. This has 20 CV blade steel. I think it's marked, yeah, right there, CPM 20 CV. It's got titanium handles with shredded carbon inlays, milled titanium pocket clip. Is that reversible? It does not look like it's reversible. So righty friendly only, unfortunately. You lefties are out of luck with this one. No back spacer, but it is a almost fully enclosed construction here. So kind of a cool two-piece clamshell here. You've got a lanyard post. If you want to put a lanyard on here, you can loop it through there, tie it on there, and you will be good to go. So let's talk about the mechanism here. You can see there's no back spring like you would typically see in a slip joint style knife. It actually operates with a double detent that functions in the closed and open position. See if we can see through. You can kind of see, so over towards the bottom of the tang here, if you just look at that gap, you can see up at the top, you can see a detent ball. Maybe, there we go. That's much better. So you can see both those balls right there. So it's got two balls on each side, and they're both riding on this tang. Now, I don't think they're under spring tension. Obviously, I didn't take this apart because this was sent to me by my good buddy over at pvk.com. Check him out. pvk.com for a lot of your knife needs. They got so much stuff. Been around forever. Super cool guys. They sent me this to check out. I should have said that at the beginning, but I did not. But here we are. So double detent right there. I don't think it's under spring tension. I think it's just set so precisely that it puts that tension just by putting the clamshell together. But you do have drag from both of those all the way through the travel, right? So this is not like a drop shutty type knife. I would assume that it's not on bearings because it just wouldn't make sense, but you know, who knows? Maybe it almost looks like it is on bearings, which is interesting because like I said, this is not a drop shutty type knife, nor should it be, because it's trying to mimic the slip joint where you want that positive pressure. So in the closed position, the detent balls actually fall into a hole in the blade that keep it in the closed position. You can see it is very, very secure in that closed position. Really a decent detent. It feels really good. Sounds really good. But then it does the same thing in the open position. So the exact same thing. It slips into this detent in the open position, which kind of mimics the force that a backspring would exert on the blade, although not nearly as much. It's pretty easy to break that, but you do get a very positive kind of click in that open position there, which is really, really nice. So that allows that blade to stay in the open position. It's not going to fall on your fingers under its own accord, but of course, you want to make sure and only put force on this blade this way because any sort of force is going to break that detent right there. Now, one of the safety things with this that I actually appreciate is with your traditional slip joints, when you have the different stops, there's spring tension wanting to shoot it into that stop. And I've hurt myself pretty badly on my finger trying to close with one hand where it hit that stop and it just chopped right into my knuckle. So you're not going to get that here. It's a very even kind of flow in between those two detents. I gotta say, I actually really, really like this double detent system for a slip joint-like knife. I think it works really well. It's not the traditional sense. You're not going to get the walk and talk like you do on a traditional slip joint, but I feel it's a little bit safer and a little bit easier to use, especially for people that maybe aren't familiar with slip joints and making sure their fingers are out of the way for those half stops. Now, I didn't even show the most interesting thing about this, or at least what I think is the most interesting thing, and that is that it is a flipper. You can see that jimping up on the top there. You can actually flip this open, which is really, really cool. And when you talk about fidget factor, it is super fun to play with and flip because you can just close it with one hand with that detent. You don't have to move a lock bar out of the way. You don't have to pull down a bar lock or springs or anything. And you can just play with this guy. Now, the flipping action isn't super effortless. You can easily make it fail because of all that tension on that blade. But with how it's positioned so high here, you build up that strength and boom, flies right open. This could also use a little bit of oil, but being that this is not my knife, I am not going to put oil on it. I'm sure if I oiled up those detent balls, maybe even that pivot, it might make for some smoother, even snappier action. But like I said, not my knife, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so really cool. Interesting. This is not a knife I would normally pick up and purchase. So it's really cool that I get to handle this. I get about a 3-finger grip on here. This one kind of hangs off. Maybe I get like a half grip. But even though it's only hitting half of my pinky here, super comfortable in the hand. No issues, no hot spots. It's actually pretty amazing. I wouldn't think a knife this small would fit in my hand. I mean, if you want to call it fit in my hand. So cool stuff. I really dig this whole traditional knife revival thing that's going on with modern materials and kind of playing around with the concept of slip joints like this one here. So let me know down below, what do you think of the Blackstar from Isham Bladeworks, or what do you think of just this style and kind of modern traditional knives? I think it's pretty cool. Comment down below. Appreciate all you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you on the next video.